Welcome to Workshop 5, and this workshop is all about inclusion. This workshop is a joint enterprise between ISOC, Special Interest Group on Education, Digital Education, and IFLA, which is the International Federation of Library Associations. That represents a sector of which I'm the Asia Pacific chair, and I've been working together with Ashirwad here, who's the chair of the ISOC Special Interest Group on Digital Education. We've put together this workshop to deal with various aspects of inclusivity or inclusion on the internet. And we are going to introduce we're not going to be philosophical, we're going to mainly introduce you some practical examples of inclusion. But first of all, let me introduce to you our panel very briefly. Ashirwad Tripathy from Nepal, who is one of and is a co-founder of Educating Nepal. Binod, Basnet, also a co-founder of Educating Nepal. And my colleague from IFLA, Nakaora from Fiji. Nina is the librarian at the International School in Suva in Fiji. And we have another colleague from my sector, Hiroshi Kawamura from Japan, who is coming in online because we did plan to have a speaker for his paper, but she had to cancel, so Hiroshi has generously jumped in at the very last minute and he will take over her presentation. Okay, so I don't want to speak any more about the panel because you will understand from their presentations what their arguments are. I just want to say that both IFLA and ISOC have agreed on this panel, this workshop, as being very important for the region because it refers to issues which our two NGOs, ISOC and IFLA, issues which we share, concerns which we share about inclusiveness on the net, which means using the internet to appeal to all sectors of the community. In my case, in the case of IFLA, we are very insistent that the internet should be used to provide equal access to all sectors of the community for information. It should be inclusive in the sense of appealing to young people and older people, especially in the education process. It should be equally useful for women and girls to get information. It should be equally useful for people in small community villages and people in cities. It should be equally useful regardless of people's level of technology at home and their skills in using that technology. We try in the library sector, at least, to provide information to all sectors of the community on an equal basis because equitable access to information is one of our main principles. And the reason we have all agreed with ISOC to work together is because here in this workshop you have people who will speak about the internet as a platform and people who will speak about it as providing content, and all of us will speak about the use of the internet for education and well-being of populations, well-being for health, for education, for employment. So we're a service-oriented workshop from service-oriented organizations. Okay, that's enough from me. First speaker, I'd like to ask Ashirwad to to speak. Just, can you pause a second? Have we got our speaker number? He's asking to be included. Have you got him? Yes, okay. Okay, Ashirwad, over to you.
Thank you, Winston. Am I being heard properly?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So I'm Ashirwad Tripathy, Chair of Internet Society's Special Interest Group on Education. And today I'll be trying to initiate a discussions among ourselves on the digital divide, that is the challenges across the Asia Pacific. So we all know that this internet has been a lifeline in COVID-19, right? Everybody had to work from home. Everybody had to go to school, online education, and even Chengatai was saying in the opening plenary that not everybody had equal access to that. So the internet is for everyone. Yeah, the internet is for everyone. That's what Internet Society believes in. But there are certain questions that we need to ask ourselves. Though the internet is for everyone, we have to address these questions. Do you think that everyone has equitable access? Anyone among you can say. Do you think that everyone is getting equitable access? Yes or no? What is meaningful connectivity? The second question I would like to ask is, what is meaningful connectivity? Just having connection is not enough, right? The purpose, the utility must be fulfilled. So it's time that we also initiate discussions around that in APrIGF. The third one is, what is digital poverty? You have internet access, but you don't have enough devices, right? There are people, dad works from home, he's got a device, mom works from home, she's got a device. Now the children also have to online study. So there's lack of devices, and there's a lot of problem that has been seen. Even in countries like the United Kingdom, it was seen that the sons were given priorities than daughters. So there are a lot of things that we need to address so that it's actually equitable and the connection is being improved. So what are the challenges in digital education? Yeah, there are a lot of challenges, but I'll just focus on three. The language digital divide. In my country, Nepal, we have like 128 dialects. So there's a very variety of languages. If we talk about island nations, PG, Indonesia, there's a lot of different kind of language, but most of the content, they are in English and very few languages. So if the language is not there, then how would somebody get access, especially a kid who is just starting to go for education? So when we talk about going to school or digital education, we have to address this issue. The second thing that was found post-COVID was lack of skills for digital teaching and learning. So we all actually have our teachers, especially in our country. If I talk from Nepal's perspective, then usually the computer teacher and science teacher, maths teacher, they are quite used to the digital technologies. But other teachers, they are not quite used to it. So the second challenge, I think, is lack of digital teaching and learning. And the third one, we all know it's Industry 4.0. It's AI, it's IoT, a lot of discussions going around. But are we really prepared for that? Or is it creating more divide? A lot of people who already are fortunate enough to have those devices, to have access to internet, who has got a better school, they are very much in favor of 4.0, Industry 4.0. But the divide seems to be growing. And as a community, it's very much important for us that we make sure that the divide doesn't grow. We don't let technology divide people. You know, we have to bridge those divides. That's what technology is for. So moving forward, I just won't talk in detail about this, but I did a research. I'm connected with IEEE Standard Association Industry Connection Program on Digital Resilience. So post-COVID, we've been doing intensive researches, and what we found is the gap that exists are in terms of accessibility. Is the infrastructure good? Is the connectivity good? Is the language divide good? Is the overall landscape? In terms of literacy, in terms of assessment, in terms of security. These are the things that we have to start discussing now in these kinds of forums, and we have to continue these discussions so that we can make an equitable and just society for all of us. And there is this complexities when it comes to gender divide. We talk about a woman and male. We've been discussing our male and female, but gender is not binary. And when it's not 0 and 1, there are like infinite numbers between 0 and 1. So we'll have to understand those kind of things. We'll have to empathize on those kind of things. And we'll have to make sure that the divide, maybe it be gender divide, maybe due to regional, maybe due to geography, we as a community have to assure that it doesn't grow, rather it gets lower and lower. So what's the way forward for us? Well, we have to be inclusive from design, from day 0. We have to think it not after we have a problem. We don't solve problems when the problem is there. We have to, rethink about it and address it before the problem gets bigger. So yes, please accept diversity, and we have to practice empathy. There are a lot of people with special needs. We have to be appreciative about that. We have to empathize that. If you don't empathize, we cannot feel what they feel. And we have our own prejudice judgment, and we try to speak and we try to decide upon that. So please do have empathy. The second way we can move forward is by sharing your experience. Successes, yes, but most importantly, failures, so that we as a community can learn from our failures and make a better world. And third, and most important, work as a community for a shared future for the Asia Pacific region. And yes, let's think about our children and their children. We'll have to be futuristic. We are currently in this position that we can actually create a change, but it's not for us. It should be a sustainable change. And every one of us has a very important role on that. I would not like to speak much, but hear from you guys so that we can, as a community, build up. So please feel free to contact me anytime through my email address. I'm also in the multi-stakeholder steering group. I'm also president of Educating Nepal. And yeah, I request all of you to just scan the QR code, and you can join ISOC Connect. And yes, let's be connected through APrIGF, through Internet Society Special Interest Group on Education. And this is just the starting of the discussion. Let's continue this discussion. Let's work on it. And maybe next year, we'll have something concrete. But we'll still have to work for it. That being said, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Ashirwad. Now, the next speaker is Nina. I know Hiroshi has appeared briefly on the screen. Hiroshi, can you just wait 5 minutes? Nina is due to speak next. Thank you. Nina, give us the story from the shop floor, the school chalkboard in the classroom. How does it work? How is the internet used? What are the stakes?
Bulavinaka and Noa'iam. My name is Nina Nakaora, and I am an AP Sync and APrIGF 2022 Fellow. I am also the librarian at International School Suva. Next, please. Sorry. Today, I will talk briefly about how our library supported our learning community during COVID-19, challenges and opportunities. Next, please. Okay. Our library is in a privileged position because we serve the whole school community. We have approximately 550 students from 45 different countries, and we connect with all our students from early childhood learners who are about 4 years old all the way through to the year 12 students who are doing the IB diploma and the ACT secondary certificate. I am excited to go to work every morning because our learners love reading and inquiry and use our library resources to increase their knowledge. Okay, next please, thank you. Reading for pleasure is extremely important because it helps our learners make use of the community or world around them, and it builds empathy, and we have had to be innovative and creative to keep our students engaged, and learning and technology has helped us to do that. When instructions went online in April 2020, supporting our learners and promote became a priority. While promoting our online subscriptions, we quickly realized that we needed to increase our online subscriptions and to replicate our physical collection. We subscribe to databases like Sora, which is Overdrive student app, took advantage of the many free trials offered by some content providers like Tumble Book Library and used Epic School Library. There was also a wonderful network of librarians who shared useful information and resources online. Ebooks are not cheap, and in the Pacific, it is very expensive because we cannot share costs with other school libraries or public libraries because they don't have the infrastructure. How do I know this? Because I worked in a public library before joining International School Library in January of 2020. For our students, Sora was great because they had class sets which we could borrow. Tumble Book Library was fantastic because they lifted the passwords and all we had to do was copy and paste the book links into CISO, which we used for primary, for direct access to their material. And Epic School was free for our students. So that gave them a wide range of material to use. Sorry, just pause it, yeah. One of the things I liked about the Epic School collection and the students loved was because they had read to me books, they had audio, videos, and material for independent reading. They also had Chinese and French books, which we teach in school. If you don't know about Epic School, it is free for students to use between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m., Mondays to Fridays local time. We were also grateful to all the publishers, authors, and illustrators who gave permission to use their content and uploaded their author read aloud videos on YouTube. There were concerns, however, about students accessing YouTube videos because of pop-up ads and inappropriate content. So YouTube video links, when shared, had to be via video link. Don't worry here. In 2020, we had a virtual author visit by Alistair Dunbar, which the students loved. And in 2021, the school moved instructions online for 3 terms because of COVID-19 restrictions. This time around, our students or our learners checked out print books from the library by completing a Google Library request form or by placing a hold through Destiny for Let. That's our online catalog. Library staff would receive the notification, check the items out to the students and teachers, and take their package to the campus gate for collection. Our circulation statistics for January to November 2021 showed that 20,000 print items were checked out, and our Year 2 to Year 5 students read 2,853 books. That is 750 hours on Epic School. The library is part of the specials team rotation along with art, music, physical education, design and technology, and our local vernacular language teachers. So when instructions moved online, we had 1 day for planning and 4 days were taken up providing online activities to 2-year levels each day for them to engage with. We also provided a Zoom help desk in the morning for students to come in and chat or to ask questions and clarify activity tasks. Sorry. We had an amazing school community who shared best practices like use choice boards to promote student agency and to remember to cater for the different learning styles, meaning we had to include text, images, videos, and audio. I remember my laptop having issues. I would email our IT help desk. One of the technicians would contact me via Zoom, and after a brief conversation, was able to fix my laptop remotely. And one of the assessment tools that we use in school is called MAP. That's measures of academic progress. And the results we got from the MAP test taken early this year illustrated that our students' reading and maths level was above international level. Having said that, it is extremely sad that not everyone had the same opportunity to learn online, with only 65% of our Year 12 students in Fiji's local schools passing their 2021 final exam. Libraries are about building communities, so we circulated a survey to our students, secondary students in term 2, to see how we could better help them or what services they would like us to provide. The results of one of our questions was investigation. They seemed to spend a lot of time looking for credible sources online, and this frustration sometimes during research can lead students towards unreliable sources. So teaching students to become critical thinkers and responsible co-creators of information is important. Next one, please. Okay. So we work with IFLA. We were introduced, IFLA is the trusted global voice for libraries, and one way that we in the Pacific have are working with them is we've translated some of their posters into our local language, and we hope that our students can better understand the importance of critical thinking and the need to check and double check their sources. And last year, the Fiji Librarians Association celebrated Global Media and Information Literacy Week with a webinar to create awareness and connect important people to highlight the importance of access to information and to give our schools and public libraries this service so that they could provide it to their users.
Okay, thank you very much, Nina. We'll have to immediately, we're running behind time, so we'll immediately have to go to the next speaker. Hiroshi, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Winston. So can I have the slide?
These slides that Hiroshi is going to speak to were prepared with the help of our library colleague Misako Nomura in Japan. So this is really a joint presentation. Both of these people are experts in assistive technology to, well, you know what assistive technology is. It's particularly, we're showing you this as precise examples of how to overcome one of the inclusion problems that we were referring to at the beginning.
Thank you very much. So please go to the slide number 4. Thank you. So I would like to mention about the origin of the solution for the digital divide to turn into the digital opportunities, which is coming from the World Summit on the Information Society held in 2003 in Geneva. So we had a very important outcome document which stipulates that the universal design and the use of assistive technologies is the solution. So this principle has been accepted by a wide range of international the guidelines and the policies. So next slide, please. So the DAISY stands for the Digital Accessible Information System, which was developed by the DAISY Consortium. The consortium is consisting of the spin-off member organization of IFLA in 1996. And it has been very active to develop the international open, non-proprietary standard, which is operational in worldwide. And the EPUB is the current e-publishing standard. And now the DAISY and EPUB has merged to become the accessible EPUB, which has the exactly the same function of DAISY to meet the requirements of people with print disabilities. Next slide, please. So we have the lots of benchmarks when it comes to the DAISY and EPUB development. Next slide, please. So as you know, the language is different from language to language. On the screen, we have the standard screenshot of the Japanese textbooks, which is used at the compulsory education. You see it written top to bottom and shift right to left when it comes to the textbook for the national language. And also, we use thousands of Chinese characters imported almost 1,000 years ago from China. And the pronunciation of each character could be different in the context. Therefore, it is very difficult to find the exact pronunciation. So that's why we have Ruby, which indicates the pronunciation of each Chinese characters. You see highlighted, yellow highlighted text with Ruby. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the reading the textbooks is very important for students at all levels. But sometimes, like Japan, more than 20 years ago, there has been no provision of accessible textbooks for dyslexic students and many low vision students and other students with print disabilities. Therefore, we decided as a volunteer, the many libraries and volunteers joined to produce accessible textbooks in DAISY and currently EPUB format to provide the students with print disabilities. And right now, it's halfly supported by the government. And most importantly, we have revised the copyright law, which allows us to produce in any format which is accessible to people with print disabilities, which is the very important achievement of the civil society in Japan. Going to the last slide, please. The last one, please. So in conclusion, I'd like to share some of the key points. The key for the equitable education in digital age is the promotion of born accessible publications, both on the internet and in so-called electronic publishing. EPUB is a portable web publishing. The same technology, same accessibility features are provided in EPUB, and accessible EPUB is a portable internet publication. That means without internet connection, you can read the contents wherever and whenever you want. So this is one of the most important solutions for the resilience of the education in digital age. And of course, standardization of the contents accessible format, like web contents accessibilities of the World Wide Web Consortium and EPUB accessibility set out as the international ISO standard. So understanding the needs of persons with different and diverse disabilities, and also other community members who are underserved in terms of the reading opportunities, could be well served by those accessible contents, both on the internet and in EPUB accessible format. So those are the concerns and the responsibility of the libraries now and in the future in terms of the equitable information dissemination. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Hiroshi. Now, sorry for the time. Binod, you're on. Can we pass quickly to you now? Hiroshi, could you stay online in case of questions?
Thank you, Winston. Am I audible? Hello, everyone. Well, we're running out of time, so the last speaker always has time constraints. So let's again revive ourselves, because we're into a very interesting discussion, and let's make it two-way communication and not, I only providing information for you. Let's jot down questions and we can have question answer session after this. So in this session, our previous speakers have given their views on relevant issues relating to inclusion and resiliency in digital education. This is very significant, especially because we are almost halfway in attaining targets and goals set by SDG 2030. Thank you so much. But there's one more pertinent issue that, Asia-Pacific countries, especially the LDCs, are yet to prioritize, and that is educating the future workforce. I'm Binod Basnet, and this will be our discourse for this presentation. So in order to better understand the necessary workforce, we need to look into the changes in nature of workforce since the 18th century. The first industrial revolution was led by mechanical inventions, starting from steam engine. And the second industrial revolution was more of electrical, mass production, assembly line. The third important industrial revolution was driven by technological, telecommunications, more electronic inventions, computers, and most importantly, the rise of the internet. During all this revolution, there has been changes in industries, economies, societal processes, and also the workforce. And now it's the fourth industrial revolution, and it is largely driven by AI and automation. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Fourth industrial revolution, Industry 4.0 or 4IR, is driven by IoT, machine learning, cloud computing, AR, VR technologies, robotics, and blockchain technology as well. And there are many more, many tech experts are here, you know it better. You know, when this was first introduced by World Economic Forum in 2016, correct me if I'm wrong, it was mostly limited within academia. But with the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, we know that its implication is actually obvious in our day-to-day lives. So why is this a concern for LDCs? You know, most LDCs and middle income countries are still producing skill sets. They're still giving skill sets to people that are preparing for the third industrial revolution. And when the transition takes place, we do not have the necessary skill set to match the fourth industrial revolution, and that will cause mass losses in jobs. McKinsey 2017 and UNSCAP has produced reports estimating that over 800 million jobs will be lost by 2030. And 800 million is a very big number. So, you know, when those jobs will be lost due to automation and AI, there will be chances that economic inequality will be widened, and that's not very desirable. So there are multiple ways of looking at it. We could look at through technological, social, economical perspectives and lenses. But today, because of time constraint, we're just looking at the basic and the most fundamental interventions, and that is through education. So as my previous speakers have already given you a brief idea, you know, we're looking into educational reform through empowering and equipping the educational stakeholders with digital competence and digital literacy, and that includes educators, administrators, teachers, and learners, including the parents. And we need to revise our outdated curriculum that can give skill sets that's necessary for the fourth industrial revolution, and followed by, you know, as previous speaker said, we need to revise our teaching and learning pedagogies that is more hybrid and technological, and similarly a matching means of learning assessment of the learners. And when we talk about futuristic curriculum, we're not just including K to 12, we're also including universities, and most importantly, the vocational schools that are still teaching outdated contents. So revising again what the previous speakers have said, we know we have to make a meaningful connectivity for a meaningful learning, and that can only be achieved by, you know, eliminating digital divide, digital poverty, and making digital learning space more resilient and more inclusive. And the whole purpose of that should be to give functional participation of learners, making it a meaningful engagement and giving them meaningful learning outcome so that they can have the skill sets necessary for the future. You know, there has always been a tug of war between human workforce and automation for centuries. But when the market demands such, there is no other option than to embrace it. And yes, we are embracing it. Change is not so easy. You know, at the outset of COVID-19 pandemic, working from home was so difficult. And when it is seemingly coming to an end, coming back to work seems more cumbersome. So there is a sort of price that we need to pay for this kind of transition. The question is, how much? Well, not so much if we are prepared and if we are ready to make necessary interventions. You see, being unemployed is one thing, but being unemployable is something more severe for the individual, for the society, and for the economy. So let's make educating the future workforce and resilient education, digital education system a priority now, and we head back home. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Basnet. Binod, are there any questions for any of the speakers? Gentleman at the back, in the back row. Could you come to the mic? No, there's no mic. I'm sorry. I'll give you mine. Just say your name.
Yeah. I'm Aung from Myanmar. My question to the last speaker. Okay, so because of automation technology, most of the job and risky condition, and also the employment rate is also rising. So how come to make the education, workplace, and digitalization to be equal and inclusive? Why people are lacking and stuck in behind? So thank you. That's it, my question.
Could you repeat the question again? I didn't get the last part.
Okay, so my question is that because of the automotive technology, most of the jobs are also risky condition to lose, and also the unemployment rate is also rising. So how come to make the workplace and also digitalization and also education to be equal, and also why people are lacking and also stucking behind?
All right.
Thank you. That's my question.
May I answer it now? Well, you know, we've seen the historical database. We've seen how times have changed from the 18th century up until now. So the workforce will continue to change as what the market demands. And, you know, automation and AI is not something new. It's been here for a while now. So if we look at it through the educational perspective, you know, we're already implanting the needs of students from early childhood so that they can be prepared for tomorrow. And the workplace you talked about, we're only looking through educational perspective, but if we look through the workplace perspective, yes, we need to give enough trainings. We need to make people more aware. We need to have this kind of discourse more often. I don't know if I could answer your question well, but I think it's time to talk about this more because, you know, the tech giants like Japan, Korea, and the Western nations have already moved so far ahead that catching up will be very difficult for the LDCs. So this is what I just wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Binod.
If I may add to the same point, you know, there's a difference between education and literacy. You know, education is not limited to mere literacy. It's a lifelong learning process, and we'll have to understand that as well. So the environment is changing, the market changes, and we'll have to have this practice of lifelong learning to add up with the change.
Okay, we've got a question from a lady from Samoa. Is that right?
Talofa again, Sarai from Samoa. Congratulate to the speakers. I'm interested in the library. My question is regarding of the multimodal approach that you used during this this pandemic. Was it useful? Was it very accessible? Do you have any data or any, you know, some frameworks that other Pacific Islands library can use? And my other question is for Ashirwad. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrongly. It's about the inclusive of the TVET or the vocational education. It's good that you mentioned from K1 to K12 universities and then the vocational. During this time of pandemic, most of this vocational education are technical, that their content hardly goes online. But I'm talking from the university, national university perspective, that we don't have online content for our vocational courses, technical vocational courses. Maybe you can share with us if there are some, you know, platforms for vocational education available so that us from the Pacific with tertiary education can adopt or use at times of pandemic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. When we released activities to the students, they were given the option to respond through text or they could take a video recording of them. We also found that a lot of our primary students liked hands-on activities. Excuse me, hands-on activities, so we would give them things to create. They used whatever resources they had in their homes, and then they would upload an image or video with a reflection attached. So they had choice on how they would respond to the activities. They were given choice.
Sorry, there's another question at the back here. I'm not. We had about 6 people putting their hands up at the same time.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So there are actually a lot of online contents available. The thing is that they're on scattered. So IEEE, they do have their IEEE Learn kind of thing where they promote STEM education. There are some things that are focusing on videos that focus on technical training. But the problem is it is happening in silos. So we need to have a holistic approach. You know, it's a global internet, so there's no holistic approach to it. So they work on silos, so it's difficult for them to handle. But maybe
There's nothing much to add, actually. What you said is right. The LDCs and middle-income countries have a very outdated vocational schools curriculum. And when I had the opportunity to work with IEEE on a research, and even Singapore, Nantang University, National University is doing such a great job in machine learning, artificial technology, and vocational schools. We need to have a multilateral partnership with these nations so that our policymakers can receive some contents from countries that have already progressed. Thank you.
I'm sorry, there was a man at the back, in the back row.
I just want to add something. No, the lady asked the question. So if you talk about the video related content, so I just want to share a very, you can say, interactive app by Microsoft that is known as Flipgrid. The app is known as Flippy, F-L-I-P, Flippy or Flipgrid. You just Google it. And it's very unique kind of its app where teacher can post a video, student is going to respond on a video, and it's very useful if you explore this app. So yeah, okay. I just want to share this.
Please, can we have quick questions, not long comments?
Hi, I missed the first 5 minutes of the conversation because I couldn't find the room, and it's very difficult because I thought, anyway. So my question was, I know we've spoken about, so maybe if we've already covered this, you could say that, but I know we already spoke about digital resiliency. I wanted to ask, in the context where there is infrastructure, but there's been a shutdown, which we've seen in the country I'm from, from India. If you had a shutdown for a year and people haven't been able, internet shutdown, and you haven't been able to access the internet, you still have different ways of communicating educational resources to other people, even during a pandemic. So the way we've seen things like on television, you had certain courses for different students airing on national channels at different hours of the day. That's one example that I can think of immediately because I've seen that. Is there an equivalent in Nepal? I don't know if you had a situation of shutdowns for a long time, but could you think of something that might be relevant in a case of an internet shutdown? Because resiliency is also necessary. So I don't know in Fiji and Nepal if you've had these situations, but anything off the top of your head? That was my question.
Yes, can you hear me? Well, we don't have internet shutdowns as India, but we are a disaster-prone country, so we do have disruption in internet. So I think on the 14th, I think there's a session on locally accessible cloud system. So we've also been advocating for a backup system. So it's a locally accessible cloud system is needed. So in case that should be owned by a community and led by a community, not government, not private firm. So if we have that lax system, then we could do that. And yeah, we can talk further in our session.
Gunilla, please, your question.
Okay.
Bhaskar, sorry.
Yeah, my question to Hiroshi. Hopefully he is listening me. My name is Bhaskar Bhattacharjee. I am working as a focal point for DAISY in Bangladesh and also serving as a Vice President of the Internet Society Accessibility Standing Group. I would like to praise first to Hiroshi Kawamura for his effort to make the reading possible for 1 billion. Thank you, sir. My question is that which standard should the nations can adopt for ensuring accessible reading materials in our region? Which one is the latest standard for accessible books? Thank you, sir.
Hiroshi?
Yeah, thank you very much, Bashkal, for the very important and interesting question. So definitely the answer is accessible EPUB set out by the ISO standard. It's clearly set out as an ISO standard. And I believe that the Europe, United States, and other countries will follow to implement those standards as the guiding principle of the accessible contents. And also the Web Contents Accessibility Guidelines, which is similar to the EPUB accessibility, will be very important. So those publications, either on the web or in the portable format in e-publications, should be following the accessible EPUB and accessible Web Contents Accessibility Guidelines. So then almost the whole digital contents around the internet will become accessible. And then in addition to that, some additional human works will be necessary as an assistive technologies, which is defined in the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities as the reasonable accommodation, which is good for not only people with disabilities, but also other underserved people in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Hiroshi. We have one more question from this gentleman, and then we have a question remotely from one of the local hubs. Those will be all the questions we can take. So, sir, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Unggul from SafeNet. Just a quick questions. There's internet available, there's a software available, but the school, usually the poor school, or even household in the COVID-19, they cannot afford to buy the access. So this is also the problem, the issues that not all the government have funds and not all the civil society has funds. And then my question is, do you have any a suggestion or in your experience how you tackle of this kind of problems in the school that cannot afford to access the internet and also the software, because software is also costly if you don't use the free and open source, for example, right? So if you have any experience on or formula or strategy to cover to tackle this kind of problems, that's a common problem with the poor school and poor households in the remote area. Thank you.
Can you possibly give a quick answer to that question?
I think community network is one of the options in terms of infrastructure connectivity. I think Elon Musk has been trying to deploy LUs. Like I was hearing this Dan's presentation where we need data points for that. It's very recent, but there are satellites and LUs that ISOC is also working on in terms of research. That's one. And in terms of software, well, I would myself promote free and open softwares, but you know, those softwares are not marketed that well. So the softwares you see on TV, the Baiju's and the edtechs, that are the private sector ones. So there are cheaper options. But yes, when you talk about deprived communities, they do not have access to that information. So we'll have to stick to the basics. At least one community member should be, you know, a little bit, have a little bit more digital literacy, more information. And it's about one community person who impels a change and the community will follow.
Okay, thank you, Ashirwad. Now we have a comment from, yeah, I know, but it's nearly the time. So I'm sorry, but I'll have to cut you off. We have a question that we promised to answer from a person in City University. Could you bring that person in, Christine?
Good afternoon. Greetings from City University, Bangladesh. We are glad to be a local hub in the Asia Pacific Regional Internet Governance Forum 2022. From this local hub, we have a question. With the rise of online classes and educational content, what are the security methods that protect the creators from having their content copied?
Okay, who would like to answer that? Okay. Yeah.
So the question is, how would we stop piracy?
Yes. How would you stop programs being copied?
Well, in terms, from my background of education, what I could say would be more generic, but it's awareness and education. First, the community needs to be aware. Then they need to be aware what are the privacy rules, what are the rules that is protecting them. The rules, there are always government rules that protect them. That's on one side. But the most problem that I see is unaware public. Because even in Nepal, yeah, even a lot of people use pirated software that keeps them open to very much cyber risks. But they're not aware about that. You know, they just think about just saving few monies or, you know, doing something like that. So I think awareness is the key in that, in your, the answer for your question would be awareness. We'll have to raise awareness and we'll have to keep on raising awareness. That would be my suggestion.
This is also a problem for governments to educate the public about copyright.
Yeah.
That's another big question. We can't answer that now. We have no time.
Yeah, that would be another session. We had it an hour.
Yeah. We need to stop there. I was going to ask Jean, no comments? No? All right. Yeah, it's time. Right. Thank you everyone for your questions. Thank you for your attention. And thank you for coming. Thank you. And thank you to the sign language guy.